Nobody would be surprised. These two are so incredibly good. But anyways, right from the get-go, we've got Maru going for the low ground barracks. I would not be surprised if he decides to add on another one as well, or this could just be a wall
This is a gasless build. This is actually really interesting. And it's a 15 hatch, 15 pull for Reynor as well. So Reynor's going to have those super fast queens out early. And with this build, usually I think it's a 3 command center, right? Like this is like
it should be, yeah.
The super greedy, like you get a few Marines out to deny the Overlord, you get a command center, then a 3rd command center into 3 racks, right? Like it's just skip the heli and skip the tech, raw economy and bio. It's a good way to take advantage of the short rush distance on this map, and scouting is absolutely essential as the Zerg. If you can realize what's happening, you can play quite greedy. But if you mess up your opening even a little bit and don't understand what's happening, things can go sideways very quickly.
So I was actually on the same flight as Reynor, going to this event, and he mentioned, you know, I'm not really too worried about Maru. I've got some quote-unquote cheeky builds planned. Now, I don't know if he still has a cheeky builds planned, because it's been a couple of days, but there's no denying that maybe, sure, he's going to scout, but he could also just throw down a Roach Warren at any point and send some units across the map.
Absolutely. This sort of build, very weak to Ravagerling or Baneling boss. Both of those can be very powerful ways of attacking. That's going to be a reactor coming out. Those 2 Marines will eventually nag the Overlord kill, nab that one, but only after it gets a decent amount of scouting info. Reynor's already building extra Overlords, Queens, and drones behind this, so he should be able to limit that damage. And he's going to need to start another Overlord momentarily. We can already see those minerals building up. We know that Maru is going to go 3rd command center, but Reynor will not be able to confirm that.
Exactly, and that's always, yeah, he actually puts it down right as the Overlord dies. That's always something you really want to know as the Zerg player. How much aggression can I expect right here from the Terran? He decides to put down his own 3rd hatchery as well. Reactor over here. I mean, all of this is a pretty clear giveaway. The Terran's going to be sitting back at least for the next couple of minutes. So Reynor can probably drone up until at least 4:30 or so, but it's always difficult, right? Like, when do you start making army? When do you stop droning? That's the main question that Reynor has at this point in the game.
Yeah, with these sort of pressure builds, you're going to see a lot of Marines with stim pressuring a few minutes from now. Maru might get antsy and move out with just 8 Marines, see if he can put on some pressure and force a few more Zerglings. But oh my, what's that, Luco? That's a Roach Warren going down.
Yeah.
Do you think he's actually going to commit really hard?
Well, it's a 3-minute Roach Warren, and I don't see Zergling speed anywhere. So he certainly plans on building a bunch of them. 2 Overlords coming up right now as well. I think this is going to be a pressure build, where he's trying to make sure that Maru is, well, crossing his T's and dotting his I's. I don't think he's going to go for a complete all-in here, but he certainly needs to deal some sort of damage, or it could just be defensively, but I honestly would be surprised. He does fire up 4 additional drones here.
You know, I don't mind the defensive Roach, actually, but he's going to go 4 Roaches, and the thing is, if you just go for a few Ravagers, you can pick off those depots, and it's just 5? Yeah, it's just 5 Roaches, Loco. So that's actually a very minimal commitment. As long as you can get a depot or 2, that's not too bad.
6.
The problem is with a bunker and repair, and yeah, 6th Roach queuing up is kind of odd, but there are still drones coming. Reynor's going to look for a bit of damage, then he's going to pull back. Now, Roaches keep you very, very safe, but you have to be careful. If they have a 3rd command center, you commit a whole bunch of money to army units this early. I mean, 38 workers to 33 might sound good in theory. When there's 3 mules getting dropped at a time, the Terran is economically ahead right now.
Maru definitely has got a big power spike coming up as well. You can see Stimpack as well as combat shields right there on the production tab. This is before the factory. Those 2 upgrades are going to finish up right around the same time, and Maru's units are suddenly going to be significantly more powerful. And there are those awkward moments where you're moving across the map with the Roaches right around the same time as those upgrades finish up, and you get shut down really hard. Look at the amount of Marines already. I love this, by the way, from Maru. Only moving with a small group of units. He's like, guys, I only have about 8 Marines. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Reynor isn't believing that for a second. He's like, yeah, sure, there's only 5 Marines, man. But he's not got that many Roaches and Queens, and it is a short rush distance. This map, towing that line of Zerg greed, right? As a Zerg player, you want to build as much economy as you can, delay building army to the last possible moment. On this map, that is very dicey. It's difficult to balance that line. 8 more drones just queued up, and the Marines are coming out. He starts another Roach, but he's got very few right now. He's got to be careful. Those Marines and those Roaches are going to stumble into each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he catches himself in that tall grass right over here, in this side of, or line of sight blocker right here in the middle, that could be a disaster. 1 creep tumor kill, at the very least it confirms all of those Marines that are moving across. Mass road production right now. Is there enough though for the Zerg? I mean, Stimpack is done.
No, Maru can definitely commit and look for some damage, but Reynor, good positioning so far. Nice transfusers going down. The damage output of those Marines is insane. Great focus fire for Maru, already taking down 6 Roaches.
Yeah, he is going to be pushed back here eventually. Not that many losses on the side of the Zerg, but probably a little bit more than he was hoping for, right? If he would have had those additional roaches finished, I think he would have felt a lot more comfortable. Maru, by the way, also just marching across the map, right? Medevac's only just now coming up. Classic Maru move here, but it certainly can get a little bit dangerous. If Zerg was making units there the entire time, all those Marines would have gone down for essentially free.
I'm not comfortable as a Zerg fan looking at a 4-worker advantage at this stage of the game, Loco. This does not feel good for Reynor economically because the double upgrades are far ahead for Maru. So he's got double upgrades coming in faster. Double upgrades just starting now for Reynor. He's only ahead a couple workers as Reynor with a 4th base just starting. It feels to me like there's going to be a Marine tank army coming. And Reynor is not going to have any room for mistakes. The next few minutes of this game, he needs to land perfect engagements. He's going to need to land corrosive vials on siege tanks. Can't let these drops catch him off guard at all. Reynor has very little room to make those mistakes. He's going to have to be on his A-game for these mid-game harassment period. If Maru snipes the 4th base, for instance, he might just run away with this game.
Power spike coming up as well for Reynor here in about a half minute from now with 1-1 as well as roach speed finishing, and that's something that Maru is aware of too. He's just trying to snipe whatever he can for the time being. This is usually one of those builds right here from the Zerg where you're just trying to defend and eventually obtain the victory when you get to the late game. I don't think Reynor is going to go for a big 1-1 speed attack, especially right now with the Hive coming up and 10 additional drones. There's 2 of those Infestors coming up as well. That's something that, well, for example, Dark really likes to do in pretty much every single one of his games. I think that Reynor's strategy here is to just, well, try to survive, try to make sure that this map goes as long as possible, and maybe even tire Maru out a little bit, right? I mean, some of the maps we've got coming up will make that a little bit easier for Maru if he wants to go a complete split map.
Keep in mind, I think Reynor's the one who might gas out first, though. I really feel like for him, he wants to get to Hive, but he's going to want to do something quickly with it. The fact that he's going Ling speed makes me feel like he wants to go back into Zergling, Baneling off this. But Hydrogen goes down, so it is indeed going to be Lurk Attack. Nice engagements for Maru, cleaning up some creep, getting ready. Maru has got 8 racks on the way. He's been pumping tanks for a while, and he's building up for a killer 3-base push. Reynor now might have a massive worker advantage, but he's still building workers, and that's where Reynor gets in trouble. Because if he thinks it's going to late game, he's not comfortable there unless he has a crazy amount of money. But right now, these drones that he's been building in the last 2 minutes, they don't have time to pay for themselves before the killer push moves out from Maru. So Reynor, he's got to get forward on this map. He needs to find a way to delay this push. But Babylon is so bloody claustrophobic. I don't know how you slow this push down.
No, we do see the Lurker Den coming up. We have the Hive finished here as well for the Zerg. He's getting a Viper. Keep in mind, he does have Infestors. I think those units with their fungal growth ability are going to be absolutely critical. But look at Maru, already pre-splitting some of those units, making sure that not literally everything, just like that, is going to get caught. He does grab quite a few of them, but siege tanks are joining in, and those 2 fungal growths did very little for the Zerg.
Yeah, I mean, the second one landed, the first one completely whiffed, but look at that. Maru gets in, gets a few workers. Now, as Reynor, losing a few drones, a few gases, not the end of the world. It's about keeping his army alive and doing nothing but army production. He's going for 2-2 on the range. Lurker Den is almost ready, but I don't think there's any upgrades, nor is there Hydras just yet. What is amazing is that Reynor's so far forward on the map, creating space that's slowing down Maru's push. And even then, he's got to buy another minute. It's a while until Lurkers hit the field. It's a while till those Vipers have Blinding Cloud. Reynor may need to let Maru even deny this central base. He's got to be very patient.
There's no 4th command center with this for Maru, though, so he needs to deal some sort of damage, but I think he may very well be getting it. Look at that army from the Zerg. It doesn't look very impressive at all. 2-2 is finishing up here for the Zerg. He does have energy right now on his Vipers as well, so maybe Parasitic Bombs, Blinding Clouds, they can buy him time, but ideally what he wants is Lurkers.
Yeah, the Lurkers are essential, otherwise the Bio can push forward. How can he get in range of these siege tanks as well? The Bio's stimming in. Maru knows he doesn't want to give him that time to get up to that Hive Tech. The Vipers are hiding behind the hatchery. The Roach is stuck in a corner.
Yeah.
Oh no, terrible positioning for Reynor, but big Fungals land.
Yeah, those fungal growths are absolutely amazing right here for the Zerg. There are the Lurkers finishing up. He doesn't want to move them too far forward because then they get in range of the siege tanks. Speaking of which, though, he's pulling them into range right now with those abductions. An incredibly close engagement right here for Reynor, but he may be able to hold on. Maru, though, decides to stim forward. He's going after the Lurkers right now, and if he gets the Lurkers, he gets the hatchery.
Everything going in for Reynor, trying to hold on. One Lurker survives. A lot of the Bio goes down, but all the drones have fallen on that base. The Roach Ravager numbers are in tatters. The last Lurker falls. The hatchery goes down. Maru with a decisive 3-base push.
GG.
Uses his map pick wisely, and that was a killer way to finish game 1.
What a game to start the tournament off with, man. That was already on a razor's edge right there, right? If that attack would have hit just a little bit later, Lurkers would have been out. We would have had 2-2 upgrades for the Zerg finished. And that push, it would have looked, well, almost silly.
Yeah, it's really tough. You could tell Reynor's game plan was to buy time against Maru, but Maru just methodically spread forwards, like you pointed out. He sieged on the ridge. He didn't just grab the army and shove through to the middle of the map and eat those big fungals. He dodged the first one, only lost a few Marines to the second one, and then he said, hey, it's just Roach Ravager. This is not that scary an army. If you don't have Banelings or any Infestor energy, I can push into you. And once the Terran has pushed the creep back and spread those tanks out, and they're kind of on the Zerg base, I mean, what's the play for Reynor? Technically, probably you want to give the base up and go around for like a backstab or give up that.
Yeah, but then you lose the 12 o'clock position too, and it's...
Yeah,
then you
Bio
lose
can
your
split into your fourth base.
Yeah.
Like, it's a terrible position to be in, and it's just the size of the map. It allows these pushes to be so strong for Terran.
I don't think he was too happy here with the first 2 fungal growths. Like, he did get a second fungal off that was pretty good, but no follow-up. And I think if he would have had just a little bit more Infestor energy here, he probably would have been able to just barely stay alive. In the end, though, too much attack right here for Maru. I mean, this was also do or die for Maru, right? Like, he needed to deal some sort of damage. He didn't have another command center on the back of it, unless he started one up and I missed it, but I don't think he had one at the very least when he first moved across the map. Excellent game number 1 right there for Maru. I mean, I always like looking at Maru whenever he wins games. He always just sits there. He's like, yep, just another day at the office, boys.
A fountain of emotional outbursts.
Yeah.
You know, no, he's so focused because he knows it's a long day, and he's like, you know, hey, this is just game 1, series 1. This doesn't mean anything yet. I've won championships many times before. Got to stay focused throughout. And I think what is so good here is the pattern recognition for Maru. I think from the first Roach he saw in that game, he immediately knew what Reynor's plan was. Because think about it, that whole style, 3-base, super delayed 8-racks push with Biotank and 2-2. Why wasn't there more urgency? There wasn't more urgency because he knows that if you push too early, Reynor's going to stuff it with the Roaches and the Infestors. He's going to get you. But if you take too long and you give him time for the Vipers and Lurkers, that is when the Zerg hits the power spike. Unable to get there in game 1. Let's see if he can do it in map 2. In the bottom right side, it's Reynor. Representing Basilisk.
And his opponent, the man who's been dominating the Korean region for, well, about a decade at this point. We're looking inside of the main base of Maru. A stone-cold killer. Beautiful game number 1 right there from him, though. I think you actually hit the nail on the head there, because this is the style, the one that Reynor played in the previous game, that, for example, Dark is very fond of. And I can imagine that Maru plays against Dark quite a bit. I mean, he's here at the tournament too, of course. We should be seeing some of him later as well. Regardless, that is a style that Maru has a lot of practice against. Now look at this. He's going for something that looks somewhat similar. If you don't watch that much StarCraft 2, it's once again going to be a wall of right here on the low ground, but it's going to be a double Rex. One of the tricky things right here for Zerg is to try and figure out, is it a triple Rex? Is it a double Rex? How do you know?
Yeah, I think it's, especially when you're playing against Beyond, it's crazy because he does so many weird follow-ups to this. I would say Maru has a very high percentage of going 3rd command center, then factory, then starport, and doing the double marine drop. Very rarely does Maru go above 3 Reapers. He does, though, mix it in occasionally, but it's like 1 in 10 games or something like that. So just a standard 3 Reapers is what Reynor's going to expect. Reynor's gone for a more standard 16 hatchery opening this time around, and definitely an interesting way to see how things adapt and adjust. These maps are considered a little bit favored for the Terran at the moment, is the consensus among the pro gamers, is that the current map pool, lots of good Terran maps, and, you know, the Zergs are so afraid of Maru's turtling, they have to get rid of Gressman and Neo-Humanity. But these maps, Babylon, Dragon Scales, I think have some fantastic aggressive pushes from the Terran.
Yeah, like Maru is good in that turtle game, right? Don't get me wrong, he's very strong when it comes to playing the late game, and he's more than happy to play the late game too. But it's not like his mid-game pushes, his early game play is weak by any stretch, right? The guy is incredibly good when it comes to playing, well, all ranges of Terran. And obviously, in order to be a world-class player, you need to know how to play multiple styles. And even though his late game is incredible, I don't even know if it's necessarily his strongest part of the game. I think him just playing what we consider to be, once again, normal gameplay is just incredible.
I'm really interested to see, does this Reapers, does he actually dive a little bit more and do the circle in the main? Because this is always my big question, is it worth throwing these Reapers away, or is it more worth keeping them alive to deny creep? Because you're not going to have any more pressure after this for a while. There is 4 racks coming up behind it. It's going to be a very aggressive mass marine push follow-up, but the Reapers perfectly survive. Great defense by Reynor. None of them go down. 3rd hatchery, very delayed. finally starts. The Reapers are going to start to chip away at it.
Yeah, and if you're going to go for a big Marine push, honestly, dealing some damage to this hatchery is not bad whatsoever. Now, Link Speed is going to finish up in just a moment. He's going to need it as well, man. These Reapers are actually putting in some work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad for Reynor. And already this hatchery is not as good as the other one against the 4x Marine push,
not at
right?
all.
It's so much closer, which means the Marines are going to stim in there. You're going to be fighting them off creep. That's going to be about 2 minutes from now. About 5 minutes 30 is a scary moment in the game for Reynor. Maru is, I think, playing smart tournament StarCraft. First kind of series of the entire tournament. There's a little bit of rust getting out to a land, getting used to the setup, getting used to the new stage.
Yeah.
If you can be the one dictating the pace and playing aggressive, you're really putting the onus on Reynor to play fantastic scouting, reactive StarCraft, to read exactly what you're up to. You're just following a build you've done many times before. You know how to disguise it. You know how to hit your timing attack. And I think this is a very big test for Reynor because defending this against the best terrain in the world is so damned hard.
Yeah, and you brought up the third base location, right? It's simply because it's shorter. Maru is going to be able to arrive there significantly quicker. He can march his unit straight through the center of the map, and the attack will just simply arrive like 10 seconds earlier than it would otherwise. And it's going to be really difficult for Reynor to hold on. Also, because, again, you brought it up, he's a big fan of playing the triple CC style here, and we don't actually see that coming out of Maru here at all. He's just got a bunch of additional barracks. Reynor needs to make sure he figures this out, but how do you do it? He doesn't have Overlord speed here. He's not even close to an Overseer. I mean, we see an attempted Overlord scout at this point. He's counting the Marines. He's like, okay, I've seen 5 of them right now. Is that really all there is?
There's a cool detail that Reynor's doing, because Reynor's going to have his information denied, but he's got lots of Overlords free at home. So when he sees the move out, he can react with Mass Zergling very quickly. And he's being very active with his Zerglings. He's not letting Maru sneak out. This is good because it gives Reynor some flexibility, but he needs to build...
Oh, he's even bringing all of the SCVs here. Well, not all of them,
but... Yeah, that's a big SCV pool. That's crazy, but he spots the SCVs. Spinecrawler goes down. He can give up his third base as Reynor.
He needs to.
Yeah, just give up the third.
Oh, he's going through the center. I think he's going for the natural here instead.
Banelings will be ready, though. The Banelings are going to start morphing. There we go. 9 Banelings on the way.
10.
Maru, if he can focus these down, that will be an incredible move, but that's so hard to pull off on creep.
Stimpack, combat shields are done. Maru's micro is impeccable. The question is he going to be able to target fire down those slow Banelings? I mean, the Reapers here being alive is actually super nice.
Oh, the SCVs! A few of them go down, but the Marines are still alive. Reynor needs more Banelings. He's trying to morph more right now. The Baneling nest is gone. It gets focused down. Banelings going after the Marines, but there's a gap in the creep. Nice spreadies for Maru. Maru takes down all the Banelings, and he is on top of the Queens. Extra Zerglings and Banelings coming out. The Marines are double stimmed. They are very, very low. Reynor, does he have the numbers? This is so close.
Yeah, I think he does. Eventually, he's going to clean this up, I believe. And at that point, of course, Maru is down significantly in workers because he used them offensively. Ooh. Another Stimpack allows Reynor to get a point on the board. That Baneling Nest timing was clutch.
Yeah, if that was any later,
yeah.
Oh, he'd be in a bit of trouble. But great scouting for Reynor, and I love that he always had a bit of extra supply free. You know, there's nothing worse than seeing those Marines and SCVs move out, and you're already hitting your supply cap. He already had a bit of supply free. He pulled so far back with the Banelings.
You've been watching my stream, SC Pig. Watching somebody hit supply blocks as soon as a Terran moves out.
I think that's our experience as washed up casters, mate. I'm trying to copy Reynor's build. I'm like, why am I always supply blocked? I don't know. It's tough. But yeah, good focus fire and like decent spread here from Maru. He was happy to lose some SCVs as long as he can get in there quickly enough and take it all down. Luckily, those extra Banelings morphed just in time.
This connection over here, that one right over there, is what ultimately allowed Reynor to stay around in this game. But obviously, that's because of the creep, right? The creep spread just simply allows him such an advantage when it comes to the speed. Baneling speed, of course, was not going to be around for another, well, rest of the game. That probably was never going to finish in this particular match, but... Yeah, usually on creep against slow Banelings, we do see Terran players. I think if this was Clem maybe playing, or maybe a Björn, we usually do see them splitting ever so slightly better, and that may have been what he needed here.
You know, it's interesting because I was saying, you know, just put on the pressure on your opponent, make them play a clean, perfect game. It's such a good way to start a series at the beginning of a tournament. I wasn't expecting him to pull the boys. I was like, whoa, he's putting some hot sauce on this to start the day, you know. He was trying to douse Reynor in those spicy strategies. But Reynor, I think, is going to have a big confidence boost from that because, you know, he's often talked in interviews in the past, we said, you know, what do you expect from Maru? And he always says, well, Maru, best turtle late game player, complete god, but he often just does a crazy, silly opening. If you can survive his weird shenanigans in the first 6-7 minutes, you can be way ahead. Well, he's tied up the series. He's got a chance to close it out. We're on Royal Blood in the bottom left side. Representing Basilisk, it's Reynor.
And his opponent all the way in the top right, we have Maru. Royal Blood, the map neither of these two apparently wanted to play, or at least not very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maru's still very happy with it, but it's not Babylon, you know?
Exactly.
I always feel like for Zerg, right, Reynor's on the bottom, the third base in a straight line to your natural, if tanks ever get in the kind of ledge area down there, that's where it's really scary. There's like this whole channel, just around this area.
There's like 17 locations on this map for good for siege tanks.
So many, so many. So I wonder if Reynor like tries to just expand all along the left of the map, goes for like the triangle, takes the 4th out front of his main base. But for now, of course, it is just going to be that 2-Rax Reaper opening again. Maru and Beyond, they have used this build more than any other build in the last 3-4 months of StarCraft. They love the ability to apply pressure, and oh my gosh, I said he almost never does this?
Yeah.
This is so rare.
And maybe because it is so rare, it's something that Reynor is also not really thinking of, right? I mean, the previous 2 games probably will give him a pretty good indicator of what type of series Maru is playing. In game number 1, we saw essentially a 3-base all-in. In game number 2, a 2-base all-in. Yeah, maybe going for a 3rd barracks is not outside of the realm of possibilities right here for Maru. Question is, though, is Reynor going to be able to figure this out, right? So the 2 barracks here at the front, they get spotted very easily. I mean, he doesn't even really need to see them, apparently. But the 3rd barracks in the main base can definitely catch you off guard.
And on this map, those Reapers rally to the right. So you're not going to see that this is a 3-Rax until the 4th Reaper arrives at the front of your natural. That's the moment where Reynor's going to go, oh, what? This is a 3-Rax. And he's going to have very little time to respond. He's not able to get his drone out of his base to take the 3rd hatchery. Quite frustrating. And good Spore Trick does keep that worker alive. Maru, of course, looking for any Reap attacks and he can enact upon the Zerg. And Reynor's completely pulled off gas. So he doesn't have the option to go for like roaches or anything like that. It's just going to be Queens, Zerglings, and that nice early Ling speed.
Yeah, how are you now going to take a 3rd base until the Ling speed finishes, though? That's one of the questions. He actually gets one of the drones. Reaper is running low, but good shuffling right there from Maru, putting it in the back. He's probably going to try and sneak out a 3rd base here eventually, but you're kind of forced to queue up additional Overlords and Queens. Yeah, there goes Queen number 4.
I mean, it's all about surviving, right?
Yeah.
Getting the 3rd isn't even important here because the Naturals just started at 3 minutes for Maru. It's frustrating to not get it down, but more important is that you don't let these Reapers kill a Queen. If they kill a Queen, things get very bad very quickly because you start losing that transfuse potential. Every Zergling, every drone that goes down is a problem. Ling speed's almost here. It does feel like Reynor's made it through the scariest part of this, but he doesn't have an economic advantage. You know, he's just up a couple of workers and he has snuck that drone out the right side.
He needs to be careful, though. If he starts it up again, we may see a similar situation as in the previous game, but this time around against 6 Reapers. Either way, though, Ling speed is finishing up. Reynor is going to take the 3rd in the triangle location. And the early game, I mean, Reynor has survived, right? And you mentioned it. It's all about survival here. He doesn't really need to do any damage to these Reapers just yet, but what are you going to do with them right now if you're Maru, though, right? You have all these Reapers sitting around. You may as well try and get some value, but you also don't want to throw them away.
Yeah, he's being very conservative, Loco.
Yeah.
9 Reapers, and he's only forced 13 Zerglings. I mean, we could argue Reynor's playing greedy, right? Like, I've seen Solar in this scenario, and he will build 40 Zerglings, no matter what, pretty much. Like, and that's what I feel you need to stop that many Reapers. But if Maru sits at home, then it's very good for him coming across the map. That's going to be nice for Maru if he can force a lot more Zerglings. But he's being a little tentative. He's a little afraid of Reynor coming out with an ambush, a big surround of Zerglings and catching them. Reynor's getting away with murder on the greed front. His drone count is starting to explode.
Yeah. Usually the main counter against these Reapers is having a solid amount of creep, and that is something that Reynor is setting up very nicely right now. Moving around with these Reapers to the center of the map, not really going to happen. There's still a little area over here, though, that can force out those Zerglings, but the Queens are available. I'm really liking the start here for Reynor. Now also starting up the +1 Carapace. That's interesting.
Yeah, Reynor not feeling he can afford double upgrades right now. He's kind of in this in-between. He doesn't know exactly. He knows, okay, there's definitely 3 barracks out. So, you know, there's a lot of follow-up pushes that can be scary. Going double upgrades, that's going to delay your lair and your Baneling speed so long. So Reynor's kind of going a few drones, a few Zerglings. Squeeze in 1 upgrade, squeeze in a Baneling nest, add a few more drones. He's trying to balance many different things while he feels out exactly what the follow-up is. And Maru, no sign of a third command center in sight. His first medevac's just starting up. He's going to have a big pack of Marines supporting a big stim medevac push, and that is one of the most interesting scenarios, because the grenades can really help you out, but most players will fumble the micro and the Reapers will just go down.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be critical right here for Maru to, well, that was a good start for sure. It's going to be critical for him to micro these units really nicely. That +1 infantry weapons is not going to connect with this attack, but it's probably going to finish up here eventually. The problem is, if he pushes too late, he's facing off against the Zerg with Baneling speed. And fighting with Banelings on creep, it doesn't really matter, well, how good your micro is. I mean, it does matter how good your micro is, but it's going to be very difficult to get a good trade if you're going to go for some sort of 2-base all-in. But I think that's what we have right here from Maru. Still no third command center.
Yeah, he's taking another gas. A fourth gas before third command center is a big commitment. The creep spread's very far out. Reynier's looking for a fourth on the left of the map.
Ooh.
This is going to be a good catch if he can get the full surround. Nice micro for Maru so far. Wedges himself in a corner, but the Lings will get the surround. Every single Reaper falls. At the same time, it looks like that fourth base gets cancelled. Double drop on the left does get a bit of a pickup for that. But for Reynor, you've simplified the game. You now just need to worry about the drop, re-establish the fourth base, and you're large and in charge in this game. He's got a massive advantage economically.
Yeah, I really like this position right here for Reynor. The main problem he could run into is if he assumes that there is a third command center out, and he just starts droning a fourth base or something along those lines. But Reynor is very diligent with his scouting information. He's been running Zerglings around this entire series so far. I think it's safe to assume he will do so here again in a moment as well, but he should see this move out. Maybe he's already read his opponent properly here, though. Yeah, he just knows what he's playing against. Bane speed is about 20 seconds away, I would say. If that finishes up, this push is going to be shut down.
Definitely want to see Reynor look for backstabs and surrounds. The secret to defending these 2-base pushes is if you don't get a big crushing engagement, it gets really bad for you, right? So if you can split off him from reinforcing this position and then come in from two sides, you can sandwich it very well. It's all about giving those Marines nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Reynor seems to be setting up something from the right. Coming in a little disjointed, though. The Southernling Bane Force does surround one tank. The Marines in a very good position, though. That was a really bad fight for Reynor. He needed to come in with the full wraparound from the rear. He comes in around a corner with that army and loses his third base.
I do not like that engagement right there for the Zerg whatsoever. Still, he decides to retreat this location pretty quickly, moving the drones on down south instead, but he needs to try and clean up those siege tanks. You were talking about the siege tank positions at the start of this particular game. There's a load of locations where you can hide them. Now this time around, we do have Zerglings coming in from all sides, and this engagement was substantially better.
That was a beautiful engagement. I mean, he'd already thrown away so many units in the first fight. I thought Reynor might be down and out, but he says, no, 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 I don't go down without a fight. Reynor has often been called the comeback kid, and that's because when he gets behind, he digs deep and he fights much harder than most players out there. He becomes an entirely different level of opponent, but losing the third and the fourth was a problem. He's back to 3-base mining, but with no extra hatcheries down, it's going to be tough. The next wave of Maru is still going to have a killer amount of lethality to it, and he's got the third command center coming up behind it.
Yeah, third command center will finish up here very soon. He's going to need it as well because his main and his natural are going to run out relatively soon. The next few minutes, at the very least, Maru is going to need new mineral fields. Liberator's coming up as well, man. Maru is just playing hyper aggressively so far in this tournament. Reynor up with his back against the wall here for a little bit, but I think he's feeling good now.
Absolutely. 1-2 upgrades are kicking in for Reynor, so he takes a single upgrade advantage. That's very nice for the Zerg. But it's the lack of hatcheries that are a problem. He's trying to expand forwards towards Maru.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always am a little bit, I feel kind of dicey looking at it. If you crush the front, this is great. He's got a good creep highway. He's got dominance there. But, I mean, you're going to allow Maru to slow siege this angle. He's going to be able to put tanks in amazing positions, Liberators on the ramps. How do you defend that with Zergling Baneling?
Exactly. He's going to need to, well, somehow, some way, clean up this army. Yeah, there's a little bit of a Zergling run by, but luckily here for the Terran, he did have everything rallied on top of that supply depot. But still, 2 siege tanks going down.
Yeah, 2 siege tanks is a good catch there. Reynor really doing very well and routing him. The Marines get sent home, gets a tank on the front as well. Reynor playing fast, fluid StarCraft right now. But Maru, those Marines are just not letting the Banelings connect on them, and anytime they find the Zerglings alone, they gun them down.
This is a low eco game, though, for both players. Neither of them has an army that can trade super efficiently if microed well, at least from the opponent, so they need to be careful they don't get too carried away. Liberators right now flying around as well, and with 2 of them sieged up like that, I mean, you can try Queen, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're going to go forward and defend, but Actually, that's a trap. That's a trap. That is not good for Reynor. He's going to get 1 or 2 Marines. And can he get anything else? Not really. Nice plays here by Maru. Reynor, he doesn't have burrow just yet. It's going to kick in. Maybe hide some units, but of course the scan will go down immediately, cleaning that up. But look at that. We've got Banelings all over the map setting themselves up. Nice little traps there for Reynor. Double Liberator production continuing. Maru wants to keep that harassment. You can tell he's not adding a 4th command center, right? He's not going 2nd factory. It's just Marines, tanks, Liberators. He's trying to throw Reynor off his game. He's really trying to keep the pressure up and not let Reynor ever feel comfortable.
I think Maru is also thinking about the game right now, though, as far as like the longevity goes, right? So he does fire up a 2nd factory right now. He probably doesn't really want to get the game to go in that distance, but he needs to be careful. Zerg can very easily outproduce him here over the next couple of minutes if he's not paying very close attention. Reynor hasn't had a whole lot of workers for the majority of the game, but he's now getting to a point where he's going to feel really good about it. He's now going up to, well, about 80 workers here. Hive is coming up. He's ready to transition towards higher tech units. And if Maru is going to be caught with this army of his right now, I mean, he is mixing in Liberators, but he needs something else as well eventually.
No upgrade advantage for Maru is big. Remember, we're used to looking at this setup in the game with Terran being up an upgrade for a large period of it. In this case, 2-2 is going to finish. Hive is ready. I mean, Reynor might even start 3-3 up earlier than the Terran, which could be incredible for him. He's up to 77 workers, which is a pretty solid economy. He is lacking creep on the flanks, but look at that. Catching some Liberators, really nice plays, and ambushes the Marines on the left. Reynor is really playing very good StarCraft, and I think a lot of us going to this tournament were saying, you know what, Reynor hasn't looked too flash hot up to his normal standards over the last 6 months. We knew this first series of the entire tournament would be a big indicator of which sort of Reynor's showing up, and I think we know that it is the absolute A-grade Reynor.
Maru ready to go for his next attack wave, and this is a really big one this time around. He's probably going to try and create a choke on that base in the center of the map. Immediately though, Reynor sends in a big counterattack. Keep in mind, this is before any of those Hive Tech upgrades, but Vipers are coming out, and once again, Siege Tanks get caught in the natural. I mean, maybe the previous Zergling run-by was a trap. Reynor decides to just simply give up on that base entirely. This particular run-by, though, is amazing.
That is huge, Reynor. I love that he's being so active. I mean, think about it. This is what brought Reynor to prominence back in the day as a young gun. His Zerglings would always be everywhere that the opponent didn't want them, and he's doing it once again. But he's running out of hatcheries. If he gives up this base, then he's suddenly in a big spot of bother. He's going to need to fleece around this army. That's an awkward position to do it.
Yeah.
Tanks and Libs are spread, even one all the way up on the cliff on the high ground. Vipers coming in with the Blinding Clouds. Maru focuses them down.
Yeah, the Vipers are gone right now, but 2 Blinding Clouds did connect with at least some of that army. He's going to be forced to back off, but that Siege Tank, once again, in a beautiful position. It is going to get shut down.
Wow.
Reynor seems to be 1 step ahead, only a really small step, but a step ahead on the opponent. He does need to be careful, though. Here come the reinforcements of Maru.
Nice unburrow in the natural, making those SCVs evacuate once more. But another
Whoa! Massive Baneling landmine. GG is called right away. And Reynor obtains the victory.
Whoa, there's burrowed Banelings, and then there's that location.